Right, welcome to another episode of the Powerful Lives podcast. Today we've got our friend Gary Marshall, local businessman. Serious story. How are you, Gary?
Yep, very serious.
I'm looking forward to getting into this one. Obviously, I've known of you. I know your boys, but I don't know your story. So I'm looking forward to this, mate.
No problem.
Let's take you back to the beginning. Whereabouts did you grow up?
I grew up in London. I was born in Edmonton North Middlesex Hospital and lived in White Hart Lane N17 till I was about sort of 3.5. And then Mum and Dad moved out of London to a new town, which was Welwyn Garden City. Dad still commuted back to London because that's where he worked, and the story continues from there, really, yeah. And grew up in Welwyn Garden, went to school in Welwyn Garden, and had two sisters and later on a brother. But my sisters lived in Welwyn Garden City with us, and then we moved up out into the sort of village when my mum and dad first bought their house. We were living in a council house prior to that.
Good childhood?
Yeah, very good. Mum and Dad worked. Dad was a grafter, always at work. I remember being a small boy and spending a lot of time going to work with him, getting out of Mum's hair, because obviously she had me two sisters. But yeah, we had a humble life. They didn't have much money, but we were one of the first people to get a colour television in the street, which was a major coup. And I was quite surprised whenever the colour television was on, there was sport on. My dad was a big boxing fan, and a lot of that sport at the time of boxing was all on the radio. But the minute football was on, we had so many sort of people come round. I couldn't understand it. It just seemed a bit odd, really. I had lots of mates at the time, all in the garden, and their mums and dads in there. So it was big news, yeah.
Yeah, I bet, yeah. Well, was you schooling around there?
Yeah, I went to my infant school was Creswick, which was walking distance from the house, and then opposite that, I went to a school called Howard. Sadly, no longer there. Obviously, housing developments now, but good childhood really. No problems, and I just sort of I was really sporty orientated, so weren't really good in the classrooms. Not for any reason, just the fact that, if I wasn't playing sport, I'd be trying to go down my dad's garage and work with him and just be busy. That was just my character. I'm not really a studious person. I've learnt more probably later on in life to know that if you can, obviously, you're looking to further your business and develop it, you have to be a bit more studious and concentrate.
I think I say it all the time about my 15-year-old daughter. If you ask a fish to climb a tree, it fails every time. And I think the school system doesn't work for everyone. But I know a lot of millionaires and multi-millionaires who would struggle with classroom maths or English or whatever, but they've gone on and made a lot of money and made a success of themselves,
Yeah, I think you're right. And I never really applied myself. It was all a bit of a, an existence, really. If you excelled at sort of sport, whether it be athletics, football, whatever, as a consequence to that, in the schooling system, a lot of the teachers would take you for your games and your PE and that type of thing and double up. And as you went then on, obviously, to the secondary school, that was the same thing. So if you excelled where you're the guy who's picking the football team actually did, part sort of history, everything else, it was more the point, if you done well at the football, you probably didn't ask you the difficult questions in the day when you're in the classroom. So it's a bit of a give and take thing, really.
Nice. And when you what was the early days sort of work-wise? Did you sort of leave school early? And
yeah, left school early, no qualifications. And to be fair, I did have a run-in with the deputy headmaster, and he just said that when I'd moved out of the area, he said the best thing, he always educated me in that way, that the best thing I could do was to move to a school that was closer to where I lived. But I didn't take him up on that. I stayed until 15. I was a bit of a nuisance, really. And then when I left school, went straight down to the garage. My dad had a garage filling station at the time where we sold petrol, Total Petrol, which is a French petrol. And I just spent every minute of the time down there as much as possible, learning to do things and work on cars. And it was quite ironic because on a few, in the latter stages of my fourth year, I didn't attend school that much, or sometimes I'd go in the morning, sort of clock in as I would, disappear in the day, and then, of course, they would come down in the transit van, pick me up for football, and then I'd go off playing away with the school team. The problem is that come undone a few times. When I'd scored a goal, they announced it in the assembly the morning after, which they found difficult when I hadn't been at school in the afternoon. But look, good times. It was what it was, and everybody complained about school dinners, but there weren't a lot wrong with them, and I ate them all. So good times, and you can look back on it. Made some good, friends. Sadly, I don't see many of them today. There's only one particular girl who I see only because she gets involved with the odd school reunions, which I've kept in contact with, not for any reason, but because I moved out the area, and then my businesses subsequently worked in Hertford and surrounding areas. That's where I was.
How did you first end up sort of starting your own first business, Cal?
Excuse me. Well, what happened was I was working in my dad's company in Welwyn Garden City, and I had a bit of aggravation with one of the guys, and he said something to me, an expletive, and I didn't like it, and we had a conversation, and it was a very short conversation, and I was subsequently sacked from my dad's business because the guy swung me round, called me something, and before he could hit me, I cracked the headbutt on him, which didn't go down too well, and we had to be separated by a mechanic and two members of the public who were getting fuel at the time. So my mum suggested, or my dad didn't speak to me, and my mum suggested that I go and look for another job, which I did subsequently, and I found a job in Hertford.
Never work with friends and family, is what they say, isn't
it? Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, I worked with my dad when I first left school. Hard because even though I reckon I work twice as hard as everyone else, everyone looks in and you're the boss's son, and you never kind of get the accolade or respect. It's almost as if you're on a given there. But
yeah, I'd agree with you. I mean, it's like the boss's son. You're silver spoon, you're this, you're that. So it was the best thing I did, really. Whack that guy. No, the best thing was it was part of growing up.
Yeah, and it gave you the nudge to then go and sort of spread your wings outside.
Yeah, and what happened was, my mum said, you've got to go to have an interview. I'd never had an interview. I left school at 15, went to work at my dad's garage. You've got to go to this place in Hertford, Minram Road, and you've got to go and ask for this guy called Terry. Yeah, Mum, I'll do it. Yeah, okay. So consequently, I go down to this place in Minram Road. I don't remember the guy's name, and I look for a body shop. I find a body shop. I go in there and I say, have you got any jobs going? They say, yeah, we've got a job going, blah, 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 blah. I get the job. So I go home that evening and Mum says, how'd you get on with the job interview? Yeah, I said, great, yeah, I got the job. I'll start Monday. She went, you haven't been? I said, no, I have been. I've been. Did you see the bloke Terry? I don't know what the guy's name was, but he said, I can start Monday. So she said, well, I've just had a phone call. And bearing in mind, this is at the time with no mobile phones, so it's on the landline. The guy who set the meeting up said I hadn't turned up. So sure, my mum did, but you wouldn't argue with my mum. You didn't argue with her. So the next day I go back down there and I go past the body shop that I got the job, and I realise there's two other body shops. So I go to the one where I should have gone, met this guy Terry, and he wants me to start on Monday. So what happens is Terry gives me the job. As I go out, I see the guys that I'm meant to be starting on Monday, and I tell them that I'm not coming Monday. I went to the wrong place, and they was not pleased. So anyway, I end up getting the job, and I start there, and I crack on until such times when my dad closes his business down and he wants to go again, and we want to start a business together, and I'm part of the family business going forward. And that's the upshot of it. But you didn't. If my mum told you to do something, you just did it because that's what you did at that time with what your mum says.
I think there was a level of respect back then that's unfortunately disappeared in the modern day.
Massive. Yeah. It's all changed.
And that's not just from parents. I mean, teachers, policemen. They don't command. And it's not they don't command respect. I think everyone's taken the power away from them. A policeman's frightened of doing anything. The school teachers will take so much abuse, but they can't do nothing. And if they do snap back, then they've lost their job. And it's not. I couldn't imagine why anyone would want to be a teacher or a policeman in this modern day. because it's got no protection.
No, I agree, and you're right what you say. The local Bobby, he would pull you up if you had got two on a push bike or anything else, and he had the plod hat on, and if he said don't do it, you pretty much didn't do it, and if he caught you the second time, you know, you're pushing the boundaries, and the third time it's going to be your parents are going to know it's everything else, and the communication was much better. They'd grab hold you by the scruff of the neck, the policeman, and put the fear of God in you, and you did have respect for him because he had the uniform, you didn't, and you know everybody's associated at that time, police, prison, and that's how it was. The world unfortunately has changed, and it's as you say, the power's gone now.
Yeah, I mean, all you see on social media now is groups of people going in and robbing stores, and everyone just watches on. Yeah, you go back 30 years ago, a security guard in there would be having a good go.
Yeah, he would have a good go, or a member of the public would have a
good
go.
Yeah, or a member of the public. Absolutely, yeah, but I think they're told now just to let it go. Like, and if they phone the police, they'll turn up 3 hours later, if at all. Yeah,
that I think that's the problem. It's or they'll send a young girl to go and deal with some sort of violence. Or an attempted break-in, and all of a sudden you'll find that your premises, which did happen to me, girl about 18 years of age wandering around the back of the premises on her own about 2 a.m. with a torch. And I've gone down there because the alarm's gone off and it was on direct to the police station. And then all of a sudden you bump into someone and you think, hang on a minute, that could be my daughter down there on her own.
What happens if there is someone there?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You've got no chance.
No, not good. So you've then gone from this job. Was you there until you went and set up with your dad?
Yeah, pretty much. I worked for the company for about a year, 18 months, and then I told the boss, who I'm still friends with to this day, he's in his sort of mid-70s, I want to move on, I want to go and do a bit with my dad, something I've always wanted to do. And the company was named R.J. Marshall and Son, because my brother wasn't born at that time, and that was a big thing for me. And the chap, and I will say his name, Maurice Warner, yeah, a great guy, still to this day, and he was a mentor to me, and I grew up. And the interesting thing is, when I'd met this guy, Terry, on the interview, he said, well, Maurice is going to come and see you, and we'll have a chat. So I said, how have I got on? Because he gave me a week's trial. He said, you've done all right. He said, but, Maurice is ultimately, it's his business, his name on the door. He's going to see if he wants you to continue here. So I sort of said, like I always do, well, if my work's all right, am I going to? He said, yeah, I think it'll be all right, but you need to listen to what he says. Well, of course, Maurice found out through this mutual friend of my mum's, who's the guy who set the interview up, the real reason why I didn't work my dad's business anymore. So he asked me the question, are you getting on all right, Gary? And I remember seeing him, and I pedestaled him at the time because he had a collar and tie on, I remember it, blue tie, blue shirt, and he had a blazer on and grey trousers. So what I'd call a man of respect, So he sat me down and he said, I want you to tell me why you left the other company. So I said, well, I just wanted a further... And he just didn't say anything. And everything I said, he didn't say anything to. So when I'd finished, he said, are you going to tell me the real reason, or shall I tell you the real reason? So I said, well, no, I did have a punch-up. This guy, it's just, I shouldn't have done, I regret it, but, he said, well, let's put it this way, I'm going to take a chance on you, but it is a chance, and if you perform like that, you won't be here. I don't care how good you are, you just won't be here. You cannot raise your hands to people, you can't do this, can't do that, it's a place of work. If you've got a problem, you go to Terry, if Terry can't sort the problem out, he comes to me, and we deal with it. But you cannot put your hands on people. So I said, no, I won't do that, and I carried on. I was there for a period of time. When I left and worked with my dad's business, he phoned me up and said, can you come back evenings at any time you've got to help and assist? He gave me a key to the premises, and I did that, as well as having work in building the fledgling business up with my dad. And I'm still pally with him to this day. So, we got on famously.
Do you think, obviously you turn up today, you're very dapper. Do you think the impressions from that guy, the way you described him many years ago, do you think that's part of the way why you style yourself, what you do?
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, as I've got older, I've just tried to smarten myself up because there is things that have stuck with me. When I've met older guys like Maurice Warner, and a very good friend of mine who passed away and he was 92, a guy called David Render, and he had a profound effect on me. He was a tank commander at 18. Died when he was 92. Sadly for me, I was out of the country and couldn't go to his funeral. But he mentored me, took me under his wing. Nothing to do with accident body repairs and cars. He was a car enthusiast. He had a big business in Ware. In fact, it was called Warecrete. And I remember him phoning me up one day and he said to me, I've got an invite for you to Barclays Bank. They've got a VIP evening towards the end of the year, and I want you to come as my +1, as a guest. He said, have you got a suit? I said, no, I don't think so. He said, well, you better get a suit. So I remember buying a suit at Marks and Spencer's, just, an off-the-peg suit, and a collar and tie, because that's how you needed to be presented. So I went to this do with him, and he said, he called me a young buck, he said I was like a son he never had, because he's only got a daughter. And he said that he would back me. He said, you're doing a good job. And how I met him, he come into one of our premises. We started in Railway Street, Hertford. We then moved to the Folly, opposite the Barge Pub in Hertford. And he come down, and I remember him distinctly. He had a Trilby hat on, a blue Fiat Mirafiori 131, and he had a rip in his nice sheepskin coat. And I thought, who's this guy? And he said, it's Gary Marshall around. And one of my chaps said, yeah, he's busy, he's spraying a car. And he said, well, can I wait for him? And he said, how long's he going to be? So I said, anyway, he waited. I come out and he said, I need to speak to you. I need you to estimate my car. And when you, I want to bring it down here. And basically, I want you to spray it and I want the job done properly. So I said, yeah, fine. So I ended up booking it in. And when he brought the car to me, he said, I'll pay straight away and I'll give you a cheque. And he said, but I want you to come to my business and you can drop me off and bring the car back, because that's how it was in them days. And then he gave me a guided tour of his business, and I'm really meant to be back at work. I'm thinking, there's only 3 of us, this is just ridiculous. Anyway, he mentored me from that point on. We took to each other, we got on famously, I sold him cars and we did loads of things together. And when we went to see Barclays, and he said, this guy's an up-and-comer. And I phoned him and I said to him, look, there might be an opportunity for us to buy somewhere in Hertford, a commercial property that will be ideal for the body shop as we grow the business and expand it. And he said at that night, he said, look, to Barclays, look, he's going to come at you and want to borrow some money. If you're not going to lend him any money, I'll buy the premises. You can lend me the money, and he can start expanding his business. And that was just his way. And they lent me the money, and he stood guarantor for it. And rest is history, But
nice.
he had a profound effect on my life, and he was just what I call, like I try to say to myself now at my age I am, he was old school. You shook his hand, that was the deal.
Yeah.
So
which is how it should be.
I prefer that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm old-fashioned, and I'm old.
Well, I'm old-fashioned and I'm oldish.
Yeah.
But I still prefer that way. If someone gives you a handshake, then that's a done deal for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you had a bit of luck.
Yeah, I bought the first premises. Barclays done the mortgage, and then the next door can't become available. And it was Jewish Consortium who I bought it off. And I remember the guy distinctly come out of Stamford Hill, Homburg hat, Crombie coat, maroon Volvo, Solomon Dummer, shook his hand, and then he phoned me up. He said, got another one, premises next door. And I said, we've got to do a deal then. And again, shook his hand. That deal was done. Instruct solicitors done. No funny business. No, this was before emails. It was just you had peace of mind. That was it. There was no deviation.
Yeah, yeah.
The only deviation would be if you couldn't find the money. You couldn't put the money up.
Easier times.
Easier times, less people involved, less touch points. By the time you instruct solicitors and then someone else to do the conveyancing, someone else to do this, do that. By the time it gets compounded, it gets excessive in terms of the cost, and more difficult to deal.
Big time, yeah. So that was purely car repair.
Car repair, accident repairs. Yeah, started when I left school at 15. My dad was a panel beater. I was a painter, but I learnt to weld as a result of him teaching me all these other aspects, because we didn't have someone to valet the cars. We didn't have someone to strip the cars down. We did everything from start to finish. And it had to be right, because if he was passing it to me or I was passing it to him, it's either him or me got to do what we got to do. So that's how it was. But again, a great background. Got my dad to thank for that. He was very good at what he did. He was known in the local area of being a specialist of what he did, and we had a synonymous name with lots of people. And you know, I'm here to reinvent that name again, and enjoyed the fruits of being a successful businessman at that particular time.
I mean, by your own admission, you've made and lost a lot of money.
Yeah.
As I think any entrepreneur, you know, you have the highs, you have the lows.
Correct.
So where did you make your most money?
Well, I had some results in some property deals. I did my first property deal when I was in my this was early 80s, and I sold a building plot for 37.5 grand, which was a lot of money at the time. But we subsequently bought houses and sort of done them up and sold them for more money and sort of moved. So I bought my first house in Stevenage. It was when we were first married, me and my wife Kim. And then we moved from a biggish house in Stevenage to a very, very small house in Chewing. And we extended it. But of course, as a part of the extension, my solicitor had flagged that there was a sort of plot, the garden, you could probably get another house there. And that was a 37.5 grand one. And then I moved up, so I was in 7 Upper Green, 4 Aldborough Close, 7 Upper Green, 31 Upper Green. And then the real step change for me was when we moved from 31 to 11 Desborough Drive. I just had a knee operation, and Mrs. phoned me up at work. No, I was at home actually, and I was on crutches, and she said, I want you to see this house. And I saw this house. I couldn't even go upstairs. I was on crutches, and she said she wanted it, and I said, yeah, okay, let's go for it, which was 11 Desborough Drive, and it was probably my dream house. Had very, very small mortgage on it. We extended it and done loads of things with it. And that was my house, probably my forever house, if you want the honest answer. As a subsequence in our life, our lives changed, and my wife didn't want to live there anymore. And I come home from work one day, and she said, I don't want to live here anymore, too many fond memories. So that's where we were on that one. But we then subsequently moved to a 27-acre farm, which was a different ball game. But she'd had horses anyway, so it was a good fit at that time for the purpose.
Where was that, Ken?
That was in a place called Harmer Green.
Oh, okay.
Near, just off of Burnham Green.
Yep.
Yeah, you probably know it, local.
Yeah.
Oh, probably arguably one of the better houses in Hertfordshire. Not because I'm saying it, because agents said it.
Yeah.
You know, houses with land, you know, that sort of land, that's a big lump, you know. Hard work when you have to mow some of it and all.
I can imagine.
I had a good, powerful lawnmower, so I weren't too bad, but she'd lose me for a day.
I remember looking at a place during lockdown 1 that had 7 acres with it, and we started looking at the time needed for the garden. It was like, no.
Doing that sort of garden is consuming, or if you're got your week's work cut out where you're pressure washing the patios and things like that, yeah, it was no fun.
No.
But we had some good times there, and it is what it is.
When did you move in there?
We moved shortly after. We lost our son, because what I have done, I have skipped it, probably because I wanted to skip it, but going back on the story, I lost my mum in 82 in a fatal road accident, just down the road from where I lived, actually. And then in 98, we lost our son at Whatnot Stone in a train accident where he was getting on the train and sadly slipped, and he lost his life there.
Horrendous.
Yeah, it's a lot to carry.
How old was he again?
18. Mum was 45. I'm the eldest of 4. We just had Grant was about 2, so Grant was our eldest, and I just sort of get solace to think that you know, my mum she's gone, and then because we only had 2 grandchildren. That was my son, our son Grant, and of course my sister's daughter Carly, who was in the car at the time. Fortunately, didn't get hurt. So I just thought that my mum's gone, and she wanted Grant up there with her, so that's where we were. So that was 1998, and of course when I say that I carry things with me, it's because what you have to appreciate when people are involved in an accident, you have to identify them, and that was tough. And I haven't got vivid memories of it. I've got very clear memories of them 2 fateful days, really. So, life was hard. It was tough. It still is, because you never forget them. And of course, the other problem is that you've got anniversaries and birthdays. And I remember we had the funeral at Chewing Church, and about a few days before the funeral, I had a knock at the door, and it was the police. And I thought, what the hell are they doing up here? And they said, look, we've got so much response from the funeral, we're going to have to cone the road off. And we just want to say that, there are going to be police present at the funeral, and there'll be cones, because we know that you wanted to, obviously your cortege, you want to do this, do that. And I said, well, that's fantastic. And it was all a bit of a blur, but I did give a eulogy at the church. And I remember looking at our friends, close friends, and I was really upset for the obvious reasons, but I have to say I had people giving me strength, because as much as I was talking about Grant, they were in tears and in bits listening to what I was saying. It was on a tannoy as well, so the people out of the church, because they couldn't get everybody in the church. It was, and ironically, unbeknown to us, that there was a thunderstorm, pretty much a thunderstorm, and hailstones come down, and we weren't aware of that because we was in the church. But it was only a couple of days later that I went to the local shop, and the guys said, did you get caught in the hailstones and thunderstorm? And I said, well, I knew nothing about it, but when we come out of the church, it had been raining profusely, But remember standing there, because I don't write anything down, I never do. I just do it off the cuff, and looking at friends, and they've all got family, and there was just tears running down their eyes, and it was almost giving me strength, really. Because I remember saying to Grant as he got older, because we went to Florida with him, but we had an opportunity to go to Lapland, and I said, we want to go to Lapland. Brett and Scott are coming, as they were getting a bit bigger, of course, obviously, but for our daughter. And he said, no, Dad, I remember saying, it's not a bit of me, And I said, well, I thought it might be, because I want someone to drive one of this ski-doo buggy thing, on these frozen lakes, and Brett and Scott are a bit too small for that, And he went, oh, well, perhaps I will then. He was one of them. But Grant was flat out. He was, he just was flat out, And ironically, we got grandchildren, and one of our grandchildren, he's like Grant into everything. I mean, we bought him a new scooter, Grant, when he was young. And Kim phoned me up at work and said to me, when you get home, you need to bring some spanners. So why is that? She said he's got his scooter in bits. So I said, we'll have to put it back together. And sure he did. He was clever. He could, he could do things. And
was he still at school?
Yeah, he was at Richard Howell. Yeah, he was there. Richard Howell, and Brent went to Richard Howell, and then Scott went to a different route, because of when you get a situation like that in your family, the equilibrium of the family is all upset. My wife's grieving. We're all, upset. And it's very difficult to get to console each other when you're in that situation, that space. It's challenging, And then, of course, as the boys got older, fortunately, we got them into boxing. And we've got Frank Warren to thank for that, because I remember speaking to Frank and saying to him, look, the boys are off, I can't do nothing with them. And they'd got in fights and that sort of thing. And he said, we just got to channel it into boxing. And Frank got us involved with a couple of people, an ex-pro boxer called Jimmy Batten, who fought for the world title, lightweight, middleweight title, against Roberto Duran. And, of course, the late Dean Powell. And he took to the boys and that, and we just got them down to Peacock Gym, and the rest is pretty history. They did their thing on the IBA circuit, and had to move round, and they're both pretty fearless. So when they started to learn to box rather than fight, they become, a good boxer who can fight as well. He's a dangerous man, And as they grew up and had some fun at it, and now we've got grandchildren, and they're businessmen now, and they're cracking on with their businesses, and they're working tirelessly. As my daughter is, she's setting up a new business, and as my wife. So we're all working in our own businesses, and you know, that's where we are. And of course, so when you overcome hurdles in life that things throw at you, I've got voices in my head sort of saying to me, Mum, Gary, just get on with it. Or failing that, Grant will say, Dad, come on, it's just crack on, you know. And so that's my inspiration, really.
It's the one thing you never expect to do, I suppose, bury your son or daughter. It's, I can't comprehend how it must feel. And touch wood, I'll never go through it, Gail, you know. So
yeah, you never want to do that. And as I say, it's the knock-on effect. But what it has done, and I say this to a lot of people, you know, who get in my ear, oh, I haven't got this, I haven't got that, you know. Possessions are possessions, but, you know, all we want good health, because health is wealth. And I know it's said, but it's said very lightly. And unless you're in a situation like what we've been in, and I've experienced that twice in my life, two fatal accidents. That doesn't seem fair to me. And there's been a lot of time when I still now think, why have I been chosen? What did I deserve to do? You know, what did I deserve? Why did I get this number? You know. So when things cross my path now, and obviously money is money, but you know, when there's situations where you know, I had this issue which I'll tell you about, which was the Inland Revenue, which was pretty well documented in the local paper. And they were up the house and this sort of thing, and there was all threats of potential prison sentences and Christ knows what. Nobody knew what I was going through, but to be honest, I sort of thought, well, this doesn't seem right, and I'm going to fight this, which I did, and the problem went away, not without some issues and you know, a substantial fine. But you know, it went away. But in the show of importance, it was pretty low down there in comparison to what I've endured.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And I'm only talking about my situation, and I'm not being flippant about it. But you know, it's you just get on with it. And I don't want to hear small talk where people get in my ear about, oh, I've got this problem and that. Believe you me, you know, you could be. There's always someone worse off. So, but I don't. As I said to you, I carry it, but I don't burden people with it. But there's certain things in life, you know, and certain dates that are poignant to you, and you might not be yourself on them days. Recently,
100%.
You know, and I make no excuses for it. I am who I am, and I don't role play.
Yeah,
I'm not.
I think you're allowed to, you know, like to show emotion on them. You're allowed to show emotion whenever you want. But on a day like that, you know, it's a birthday or an anniversary, do your thing. You know, I think it's all you can do. It's, you know, everyone deals with things differently, but I think the worst thing you can do is to actually sort of try and plaster over it. I think you've got to kind of let it out and do what you got to do for that day.
Absolutely, and I'm very fortunate that I've got, you know, a very, very close family. You know, we work well together. We have our differences, of course we do. It's all emotion. When family's involved, it's emotion. And we'll have arguments, differences, you know, because there's always an opinion. There's my opinion, there's someone else's opinion, and of course what we have to realise is it's my wife's opinion. It's always right anyway. You know, when she said to me about you know, the marriage and that, and we've been married 46 years, and to be fair, I think I've done well. You know, I think she's put up with a lot. I could say other things, but I'd be ill-advised to.
Yes, yeah. Do you think the loss of your son brought your family closer?
Initially, no, because there was a void, there was a gap, and there was a space that we couldn't fill. But I will say, which to me, the grandsons are just a tonic. You know, I get excited when they come round or we see them. And Ronnie, we've got Kane, who's sadly Brett's son, who he doesn't see. So we don't have any real relationship, nor does Brett with Kane. But we've got Ronnie and Frankie. They're Scott's two boys, Ronnie being the oldest, and he's now talking and starting to string sentences together. And, you know, we've made it very clear to the grandchildren, and I know the boys have, because it was their brother, that, you know, Grant, we still talk about Grant.
Yeah.
You know, he exists in our life. It's not just...
It's not a taboo subject. It's
No. We talk about what Uncle Grant would have done, this sort of thing, and everything else. And it's good because the boys now have got his name, you know, parts of his name in their names. And so we've got...
nice.
And Brett's new little chap's just come along a couple of days ago. So so we just need to find proper guy for Alice, and maybe she'll bring her daughter into the world. But we've got the tradition of the family name going to remain for a period of time because all the grandsons are boys. So
Yeah.
and I'm grateful because there's a lot of people out there that can't have children, and as I say, you know, there's always someone worse off. So
Agree. Yeah.
you know,
I think it's a really powerful way of looking. You know, like when you actually accept that. So yeah, I don't know, probably about 3 months ago, I was low. I was feeling really low, and I don't know why. You know, sometimes you have these days, don't you? You know, we all get them. Like you know, in real life, we do have ups and downs. Especially, I think if you work for yourself and you've got entrepreneurial tendencies, should we say, where you do push boundaries. You do. Sometimes you had the highs, sometimes you had the lows. And I remember being on this train, and I'd had enough. You know, it's one of them. I just whatever had happened, I'd had enough that day. I can't really remember why. But then all of a sudden, this guy's sort of got on the tube in a wheelchair, and straight away my mindset changed because I thought, what am I moaning for? You know, what am I moaning for? Like, I've got my health. Like, we all have a few ailments and that, but you know, in general, my health's fine. This guy can't walk. And from there inwards, my mindset changed, and I managed to sort of think, you know, sort of basically slap myself around the face and said, what are you moaning for? You know, get on with it.
Yeah, I think it's ironic because in our Hiddy days, we got involved with a couple of horses, and we had a couple of friends, and the Grand National's coming up, so I don't study horses that much, but, you know, when there's certain races come up, like the Grand National, bit of Cheltenham, that type of thing, I just take an interest. I used to buy the Racing Post, but it's so expensive now, so I just have a little look online, see what trainers are doing what, just for my own peace of mind, really. And I got familiar with a couple of trainers. There was this one particular jockey, funny enough, ironically, this weekend, it is the Grand National, and he rode in the Grand National, and then he switched codes. So instead of going over the jumps and the chase fences, he switched codes because he'd had a lot of quite big injuries, and on the jump jockey side, you know, they're doing 30, 40 mile an hour, and they're jumping these fences, and then they come off, and then all of a sudden the other horses go over them. It can have a profound effect, and they get life-changing injuries. Anyway, I was just flashing through, and typical, I'm on something on my laptop, and then something flashes up, you know, a bit like bit of news. It was an update of this particular jockey who won the Grand National on Amberley House, and his name is Graham Lee. And in November last year, he was racing at Newcastle. Sorry, I do apologise. And he's in the stalls, and he pulls the hood off the horse, because a lot of times when horses won't go in the stalls, they put a hood on them. But before they race, obviously can't race in the hood.
Yeah.
So he pulls the hood off with his left hand, and the gate goes up. But instead of the horse, I don't know where his left hand went, but instead of the horse actually going up and going out the gate, the horse ducks down, and he gets forced and smashed into the ground head first. And he's now disabled from the neck down.
Wow.
I've still got his phone number on my mobile phone, and he rode for us on a couple of occasions. Just a good bloke. Irish jockey, come over to this country. There's a lot of my, you know, learn their trade in Ireland and come over into this country. And, you know, in one fell swoop, and he's rode in the National, he's had injuries and everything else, but not a near fatal accident, so he can't walk. And when you read that and you think to yourself, crikey, you know, when you're a bit down and you actually see that, and I've met him and I've spoken to him, and I've got him on my mobile phone, wow.
Yeah.
And you have to pinch yourself sometimes.
Perspective, isn't it? Perspective,
and I think your moment, you was a bit low, a bit down, and you start looking at it and thinking, hang on, you know, don't sweat the small stuff. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think you have to you have to take a little, pinch yourself and take a little look at what you're doing and where you're going. And you're right, what you say. Anybody who's got an entrepreneur sort of mind, brain, call it what you like, you're active, you're scheming, you're always wanting, looking to do, where's the next angle? It's just the way we are. We operate like that. I'm no different. I want to expand my business. I want to do this. I want to do that. I've got loads of things going on at the moment. I'm talking to so many people. But what I've decided to do now is talk to people that have substance, have the wherewithal, and I don't mean money, but can open doors and do stuff. I mean, I've surrounded myself over the years with people that are just talkers and no doers, and there's a million of them around, and I'm not doing it no more. I haven't got the time, I haven't got the years left in me to do it. You're a younger man, you can do that, but you'll very quickly wheedle them out.
But I think the older and wiser you get, I think the more, like you say, you do. It's like, let's get to the point. Don't schmooze me. No. Is it on or is it off?
Yeah.
Like an almost sort of autistic approach to business, where it's like, let's be really binary code here. Like, can it happen? Yes, great, let's do it.
Mm. Yeah, no, I think, I think you're right. And I do believe now, as I've got older, less is more.
Yeah.
And I've not got the circle of friends that I did have. But I look at it in a sort of pragmatic way. We've all got older. We've all got more responsibilities. We've all got grandchildren. Some have got great-grandchildren. So our focus is like that. We don't have the social circles that we used to have. We because a lot of the links were tied up with we went to certain private school functions because our friends had their kids at private school functions, so it was a black tie job. So you knew there was 2 or 3 of them every year for the next 5 years, or as long as they were at the schools. And we're all, living in the fast lane, and it's just the way it is. You blink now, and things, can be done, literally in a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
And life's fragile. 1 minute you're there, next minute you're not, or you've had a near miss. We've all had near misses in cars, and thought, crikey, that could have been. And I got away with it. Sadly for me, in my life, my mother and my eldest son Grant were in the wrong place at the wrong time. And Graham Lee's an example, and he's a jockey. He does it for a living.
Yeah.
But on that fatal day, it wasn't his day.
Yeah, fate. I think fate sometimes has already mapped your path, unfortunately.
Correct.
I don't mind. My dad was 62 when he passed, 20 odd years ago. To me, I mentally always look as if I'm only going to live to 62. Now, I might only live to 52. I might live to 82. But mentally, I'm whether it's right or wrong, but I like the idea of thinking that I'm not going to live forever, because it makes me want to do more now. There's so many people who put off. My granddad, for instance, saved up all his life for retirement, retired, 2 weeks later died. Like, that happens to 85% of the human population. They exist. They're alive, but they're just existing. They're not pushing. And again, there's right and there's wrong, and there's no saying which one's which, but existing for me I'd feel like I'd already died.
Yeah, well, I think I've got a similar sort of thought process. I get up in the morning at silly o'clock, come home when I come home, and I want to cram as much in my day as possible. And if I can have some good days, really good days, that's fantastic. If they're not so good, I'm still working and scheming and looking to the next deal that I can pull off, Excuse me, because of the very reason I'm behind where I should be. And what, I'm driven. And it's not my family telling me, it's just me. I've got this thing that I had a lot and I haven't got so much, so I want to make that time up. And providing I've got good health, then I'm going to continue to put the effort in. Because in my world, apart from obviously selling some properties and different things, it's always been about hard graft. So it comes naturally to me, And but I want to get some nice things. I want some time as well. So to get the balance between time and having a nice time when you've got the time, it costs money.
I think that's a very interesting analogy, that you realise the older you get, you can't buy time.
No.
And them 18-hour days do take it out of you. Like if you can spend time with family, it's priceless. Because I think at some stage we get there and, you know, we land on a deathbed wishing that's what we'd actually done. But at the same time, you need the money to have the time, don't you?
Well, yeah, and it's a balance. And have I got the balance right? Probably not. My wife would say probably not. Don't have enough holidays. Never had enough holidays. But as I say, you know, if I go on holiday, I want to be able to enjoy it, relax, and I want to be in a position to contribute on the holiday. I don't want to be, you know, taken for a ride by other people's, you know. My boys and my daughter, they and the whole family, they were just graft, you know. And, you know, my missus and me are probably working harder than we ever expected to. But circumstances being what they are, we're just driven. And as I say, what's happened really, to sort of summarise, is that I've always been the way I've been, but I had the rewards. And when you get the rewards, there's less emphasis on the time and effort it takes to get the rewards. When you've not got the rewards and you're still putting as much time in, to someone from the outside, it would look like, what are you doing it for? But, you know, Rome wasn't built in a day. And my business that I had, my empire, was a big empire for me. I mean, we were turning over sort of £4 million in 2000 odd, in the early sort of middle 2000s. But of course, you know, my life changed very much when, not only with my mum and son, but of course in 2007 I lost the contract with a major insurance company. And that was really, I've cried 3 times in my life, really, or 4 times actually. I've just remembered. Once when my mum died, once when my daughter was born, and once when once when Grant died, and then of course when I lost a contract, because I knew then the contract that I'd lost was life changing. It was my lottery ticket. It was putting Marshall Panelcraft on the map. And what you have to appreciate is that I was very fortunate to be one of many accident repairers in the country. When I was repairing cars, there was 15,000. There's probably less than 3,000 now. And I was privileged to be invited to sit on the top table with the leading insurance companies in the country.
And what happened?
Well, I had 3 sites. In fact, I originally had 4 sites. I had one in Foxton in Cambridge. I had obviously one in Hertford at Marshgate Drive. And then we had one obviously in Bounds Green. But what happened was the situation was that I got selected to represent some insurance companies, and they wanted us to grow the business, expand the business. So when I sold our site in 2007 and moved to Fountain Drive, that was 17,000 square foot of space in Hertford, with an acre and a bit of sites, a car park, anything else, self-contained, you know,
massive.
Attached, massive. And obviously I got back to do a big extension and that, so it was massive. I even had a boardroom there. And once we done that, we got the profile of the company. So I sent the profile out to the companies and said, look, this is where we are. We've always got a good reputation for doing good work. And the key to that was having good staff. And the staff have been with me for several years. So what you get out of that is you get consistency and continuity. And the staff, when they started with me, many of them were single guys. And then a few were sort of engaged to be married. Some were early days of marriage. And it was quite weird, really, because I remember people saying to me, Gary, I need to have sort of a half a day. I've got to go and buy a washing machine, and we're going to the Blue Cross sale, da-da-da-da-da. And I used to say, well, if you don't have half a day off and I get you a washing machine, you can tell your missus. And so it was like the Bank of Gary at the time. I'm sure we've all done it. I'm sure we've all done it. And these guys stuck with me forever, pretty much. My longest serving guy was and he worked with me for 34 years. So that's
lovely,
a big ticket.
Yeah, it says a lot.
And it says a lot. And did we have our ups and downs? Yeah, of course we did. We have our rucks, yeah. So my philosophy was at the time that, look, boys, you're the ones who are going to be repairing the cars. I'm going to get to work. So you make sure you do it right. But what you've got to realise is that when I come back and I bring the contract back, this is what we've got to adhere to. Because we're working for Allianz Insurance Company, we're working for Zurich Insurance Company, we're working for AXA Insurance Company.
What was the contract worth?
That contract what we lost, which was at the cost to me, which again is when I cried, was worth £5 million a year in terms of turnover. So it was 20,000 over the next 5 years. 20 million, sorry, to apologise. 20 million. So 5 million a year, just with one insurance company. I signed an NDA with it. And when I signed the NDA, I was approached by 2 other insurance companies. They knew I'd signed up. It was one of the worst kept secrets in the industry. But little old Marshall Panelcraft was selected. And all the big boys in Liverpool and up north, they didn't get selected. And I was selected with Nationwide. At the time, I had sort of 65, 70 shops, where we only had 2/3. And it was unheard of. It was groundbreaking, you know. But I've been sitting and talking to them and told them what my philosophy was and what the ethos was with me and how we can get the cars repaired quicker. But you have to give us a reward. And the reward for me was pay me quickly, which they adhered to. And people used to turn up to these meetings. I used to go a lot on the train. And they'd say to the insurance company, well, you don't pay us enough money. What do you expect us to do? These guys were turning up in high-end powered performance cars with single-digit registration numbers. And they're telling someone that they don't get paid enough. And these guys have got shares in hotels and boats out on moored here, there and everywhere. And I just kept saying, pay me quicker. And the word I use, and I've used it a lot and I will use it a lot, is grateful. I'm grateful of the work. They don't have to select me. But what you got with me and what you saw with me is what it was. And I said I can deliver on this, this and this. So with my team of people, which obviously were hand-picked, because what you've got to have to realise is that every person that I hired, I fired. That was me. No HR. I'm HR. That's it. My philosophy was I develop it and I market it. They've got to do the work. Because I had to move off the tools because you have to become an entrepreneur at that point. And my brother was running our site in Bounds Green, and basically he tried to corruptly influence the repair state of the vehicle. So if it come in for certain bits needed doing on the vehicles, he would overemphasise the repair. And he got caught. But it didn't affect him. It affected me. Because I'm the MD.
How soon into the contract was this?
I didn't get offered the contract. I got the contract. It was in draft form. We were about to get it signed off. And basically, they phoned me up and I had to go to a meeting, and I was interviewed by the police, the ex-police fraud investigation. And these guys now are employed by the insurance companies because there's a hell of a lot of fraud in motor insurance.
Yeah, I can imagine,
And so I'd lost that contract, and the lady who presented me with the contract was about to present me because obviously we told that we were awarded it, but we couldn't go to tell anybody. They were sending draft contracts out. We never got the draft contract, never signed it, because it was pulled before it could come out. And it was going to be announced, and we were going to all have our, all be put in the Daily Mail, because it was groundbreaking stuff for Zurich Insurance. So that was another time I cried. So they did 4 times.
How long do you think that affected you for mentally?
I've never got over it.
No.
But in it, it's not the same as losing a member of your family.
No, of course, yeah.
But it's the next best thing because it shaped my life going forward.
Yeah.
I was never ever not going to put the hours in at work. I was always going to be dedicated. But what you've got to appreciate at that time, I would have had to go and expand to other body shops. I'd engage with other body shops, talk to other body shops, and said, look, are you looking to sell? Are you looking to do this, do that? And 2 guys were on retirement plans, and I'd had conversations with them and met them over weekends, not at their body shops and things,
It's like that only fools and horses, where they never quite get it over the line. Like,
Well, we were there, and of course the knock-on effect is what you have to appreciate is that I was then interviewed by all the other insurance companies, because if Zurich have found this, what have I been doing with other insurance companies? So when they come to do an audit at my body shop in Hertford, which I was running, and I had a little one in Welling at the time, no case to answer. Because I always said to everybody, the industry that we're in is fraught with fraudulent acts. It's horrendous. And I always said, I'm not interested in charging a bit that we don't fit or we charge it. I'm not interested. I'm not. It doesn't. not in the scale of things. Is why would you?
Yeah.
It's a
But
pointless
it's greed
exercise.
again. It's greed.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, and my brother was one of these guys, sadly, that he was always right. You could never tell him. And I remember him saying to a member of staff once, and bearing in mind our company name is Marshall Panelcraft and our surname's Marshall, he said to one guy, and I heard him say it, they were having a bit of a go and using a few expletives, and he turned around and said, listen, mate, it's my name on that door. Not once did I say that. I wasn't interested. People used to say to me, "Oh, you're Gary Marshall, Marshall Panelcraft." Yeah. I'm just not. I don't carry myself in that way. I'm proud of the name because I obviously thought of the name, and that was where we were. And when I brought my dad out the shares of the business, it was Marshall Panelcraft, and it was me. But I had some fantastic staff, and I still speak to them to this day. And if you spoke to them, they would say we had fun. Gary was fair, firm.
Fair but firm, yeah.
Fair but firm, and the other one was another expletive, but they weren't working there after that. So you can guess what that was.
I can imagine, yeah.
But when
did that kill the business?
Finished overnight, and I'll tell you why it finished it overnight. Did we have repairs coming in? Did we do this? Of course we did. But the lucrative work, the insurance work, a lot of people say, oh, they're terrible to deal with. Right? They're not. They're fantastic. You get it right for them. You got blue chip endorsement. Yeah. And I was dealing with accident management companies then because we couldn't get the turnover up, and I'd got the big overhead of the premises, and I had to sell the premises at not the right price because it was all going to be a false sale, and I owned the premises personally, so I had a big interest in that, and it just didn't work out. And when you've got to factor your invoices, you know what that's like. All your margins gone at that point. Gone.
Especially on insurance work, which is renowned to be quite tight margin-wise.
Yeah, it's tight. So you have
losing 8% or whatever you factor in it.
It's tight, but you have to the model that is currently running, in my opinion, isn't the best model. Not the most lucrative model for the insurance companies, nor for the repairers. So my new concept is, which is what I've been working on, is obviously having a lower cost base with more people in overalls, less bums on seats, and that's the way forward. So I'm looking at shops at the moment which got 3 or 4 staff in a geographical area that will tick the boxes. But it's nothing like going into London because the cost of operating in London with ULEZ and congestion and everything else is
crazy.
It prohibits.
Yeah.
So you almost think that you need to have body shops on the outskirts of London, you know, and commute in there with transporters. But I'm not interested in London. I've had a first-hand experience of running a body shop in London in the Finchley Road, and they don't work. And the people that I had working with me, and I always say with me, not for me, working together, they knew what mood I was in. They knew what was eating away at me. They just knew because we'd grown up together. We'd gone through a lot together. They'd obviously experienced Grant working in the business because he was. So the loss to me standing in front of them, telling them, and obviously they had tears in their eyes, although I was talking to them and I was in pretty much a daze, you know, and telling them about thanks for their help, and obviously can you continue to work as hard as you can where you can because I'm going to need some time off, and it'll be greatly appreciated. And you will hear me use that word a lot, appreciated and grateful, because life is fragile. And so we lost that contract, and that really pretty much finished me off.
When did that happen?
2008.
2008.
Yeah, pulled it in 2008, and I just bought the premises 2007, done the deal. So I had the new shop around my neck.
Yeah.
And to the point that when I bought the shop in 2007, I lost the contract in 2008. Zurich and several other insurance companies come to look at the premises. I had them in the boardroom, and they were like buzzed. They were buzzed up. They were like, wow. This is great, because I wanted to profile my business so that we could do training there, and if they wanted to bring people down and they could use us as a model and as a flagship, and I got them famous with the people. And the lady who was in Zurich, she was crying when I was being interviewed, and I said I knew nothing about it, which I didn't know. She was actually had tears down her thing, and she just gave me a big hug and said, I'm really sorry, and I just said, so am I, there's nothing you can do about it. But my brother, I don't speak to him.
I was just going to say, do you speak to him?
Don't speak to him. Don't wish him any ill health. Don't speak to my family members because, as a consequence, my sisters, one of my sisters, who was quite close to my brother, probably more close to him than she's me. And my younger sister's probably closer to me. Lots of things happened. My dad subsequently died, and when he died, they changed the will. I was executor to the will. They changed it, took me out of the will, and they done all sorts of things. So there's no.
Run me through this, Gal. What actually happened?
Well, I lost the Zurich contract, so as a result of that, my brother was a director of a company, so I kept him on for a period of time, and then he went and represented the company on a golf day, and he won something on the golf, which is like the nearest to the pin, and he was in a magazine. And of course, when they saw his face and said he's still in the business, they just said to me, "Get rid of him. You got rid of him. We're helping, trying to help you where we can, but I mean, you ain't helping yourself with him on board." So I sacked him. He then took me to court because of wages and everything else and all that sort of thing. So he took me to court, Watford, and the judge said, "What's your name?" I said, "Gary Marshall." And then he stood up and they said, "What's your name?" He said, "Dean Marshall." And he said, "Are you two related?" So he said, "Sit down, Mr. Dean Marshall." "Mr. Gary Marshall, get up. Are you related?" Yeah. "What are you guys doing here?" I said, "Well," he said, "I owe him this, I owe him that." I said, "But there's a bit of an agenda here with all what's gone on, with what's going on, you know." And he said, "I'm not interested in it. Go out, sort yourselves out, come back and get it done. You don't want to be coming here for this." Anyway, did no more, and we went again. He wouldn't, and it was just silly. So I fell out with him, didn't speak to him, don't speak to him, not interested. And I think their way of getting back at me was, well, you know, I was executor of the will, his eldest son. And when I went to sort out my dad's funeral, I was in the funeral directors in Old Town Stevenage. And they said the meeting, "Can you meet us there at 3 o'clock? So, 3:30. I said, "Yeah, no problem." So I'm there about 3:20, ringing the door, and a lady comes to the door, said, "Are you here to see?" I said, "Well, we're here to see me. My name's Gary Marshall. I'm here to see my sisters." She said, "Oh, you're a bit late. The meeting started at 3 o'clock. I said, I thought it was 3:30. Sorry about that. Anyway, go in there, and my sisters are in there, and my brother. Bearing in mind, I'm trying to put on a brave face because of, you're burying your dad, but so it's tough for that. But because we watched him die in Princess Allied Hospital, where his body closed down, and it was quite sad. But if you consider what I've been through prior to that, it wasn't as sad because he lived till he was 86. So there was someone dies at that age. It was
a good innings.
It was good innings, and there was a bit more of an inertia to that. Sudden. Death with an accident is a different thing.
Yeah.
You've got time to say goodbye to people, haven't you?
Yeah, you can process it and
process. That's exactly the word. So I goes in there, and it's quite a fractious meeting because I'm saying the lady on the door's just told me it was the 3 o'clock meeting, and you told me 3:30. We decided to come at 3 o'clock. Anyway, you're here now, it doesn't matter. This is my oldest sister. So I said, well, it does matter. Anyway, we're here to choose a casket. Coffin, call it what you like. So I do know, I just get the book and I say, well, before you even tell me which one you've chose, I think we ought to pick that one because that's what the old man would like. And I said, I'll get him a suit because he's obviously lost weight. I'll get him a suit and I'll get him a tie and I'll put a collar and tie on him and we'll make him look, smart when he goes, That was my sort of impact. So my younger sister Teresa says, "You better tell him. And I'm, it's not a great place to have a disagreement, is it?"
No.
So I said, "Tell me what?" So Teresa said, "If you don't tell him, I'm going to tell him." So by this time I'm getting irritated. I'm already late for a meeting that pretty much took place. It's nothing about what coffin he wants. It's about. She said, "Well, Dad changed the will before he died in December." So I said, he died in December. He wasn't well. He was admitted to hospital in February, the 7th, and then he dies in March. timing could have been better, couldn't it? That was just me being like that because, you know.
I didn't think you could even legally change your will that close to death without it being contested.
Well, to be honest, I had conversations with people after that, but I'll be honest, I couldn't be bothered with it all. I couldn't be bothered, right? Because I don't want to be in their company. Anyway, long story short, they changed the will and I was getting nothing. So
was it much of an estate to carve, Gal?
It wasn't really, but what they did was they sold that. I said I'd raise some money and buy the house. And they said, no, we're not going to. They agreed to sell it. My two sisters agreed, and then all of a sudden they said, my brother's not interested in selling it to you. They're going to sell it to someone else. So 18 months later, they sell it to someone else at less money than I offered. So that's how clever they are. But going on from that, I just wasn't interested, really. I was cut out of it, and at that point I thought, that's, the die is cast now. That'll do. As I said, I wish them no ill health. Don't speak to them no more. Don't acknowledge them with their birthdays, or do I acknowledge them when they send me my birthday thing. But I wish them no ill health, And unfortunately, sadly, for the cousins, it's not helped because my family, my two sons, Brett and Scott, and Alice, my daughter, they should be getting close to their cousins because they're the next stage of the generations. But they won't speak to them as a principal to me, really.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not perfect, and no matter who you ask, there's two stories. There's their version, my version, but somewhere in the middle there's the truth. But the reality is, they changed that will. And in that will, my mum had a car that was restored, which was a Mercedes 230. And she actually sat in it a day or so, a couple of days before she died. And that was promised to me by my dad. My sisters know that. Whatever happens, Gary will get that car. That's what happened. And they ended up selling it for 29,000 quid, and it was probably worth double that because they wanted the dough. They wanted the money.
Vultures.
Don't forget what you've got to appreciate is I'm the guy who lived in the big fancy house on the farm. I've grafted for years, and what I've done, and I've ducked, I've dived, I've sold a bit of property here and there, The freehold property that I sold in 2007 to get the site in Marshgate, in Fountain Drive, I sold it for just under £1 million. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
I bought the one at Fountain Drive for 1.5, and we stuck an extension on it, a chunk of money on that. So I've had a few quid.
Are you still in the farm?
No.
You come out of the farm?
No, I've come out of the farm. That's another story. Because I'd hocked the farm up to pay tax, to the revenue, and obviously it's I used the farm as my bank, and that turned out to be not the best.
Leveraged it, and it's
not the best
bit you in the arse.
Yeah, exactly. So there's just a lot going on at the moment, and but I'm still fighting, and I have to because I have to have sort of light at the end of the tunnel. But no, the farm's worth a few million quid, and that's not just me saying. Is what the agents have said.
Yeah.
Not. So you don't live in places like that if you ain't got no money, do you? And I made that money out of hard work and working for the insurance companies. And when people say they're not great paying, they don't do this, the only reason why don't pay you is because you don't get your paperwork right, and you have to do it to a penny. And you know that you're a businessman. You just can't roll in and roll off and just do things and not do them properly. You wouldn't get the backing, would you?
No.
And people just start these new companies up and they're here 5 minutes. I mean, Marshall Panacraft existed for many, many years. It's a synonymous name in Hertford. Okay, little Hertford. But then, we got into a situation where I developed, with the help of the Grand Masters in the accident body repair business, it was called Thatcham. And that's where they test and crash all the cars with the dummies and that, And I was instrumental, one of only 4 repairers that set up the British Standard kite mark for the industry. Little old Gary Marshall Panacraft, and the big hitters up and down the country. I'd go to meetings in Liverpool, I'd go to meetings in Scotland. I took my staff over to Germany for training. I took them up to into Holland a couple of times, all at my cost, to further their knowledge. And as I say, I've still got some great staff. They don't work for me no more. They moved with the company when it moved out of Hertford down to Hoddesdon. But proper people. When I say that, I've grown up with them. As I say, many of them were kids. Now they've got grandchildren.
Yeah.
Probably great-grandchildren, some of them. And they've got no mortgages and you know, they're just...
They've done okay.
They've done okay, and because they were good tradesmen,
Yeah.
good tradespeople, you know, and they listened and they bought into the concept of what we're trying to do. It wasn't all about my idea. It's someone gave me an idea and I said we're going to run with it, but there's certain factors that are going to have a bearing on how we perform. And I was hard, you know, but fair. But the vibrant atmosphere we created, you know, I spoke to one, funny enough, just Saturday, and I texted them, you know, at Christmas time and all that. It just, you know, I had a great time with them, you know, and I thought a lot of them. And I rewarded them as much as I could when I could, you know.
Yeah.
And we used to have a great social event, taking clay pigeon shooting, bowling and all that sort of thing. And it's a bit like the football teams today, you know. If you look at Klopp, sadly he's leaving, whether you're a Liverpool supporter or not. But what he tends to do, he embraces the people. He's gone into the paper today, just as a little antidote thing, because I'm into football, so I used to coach football and do things. And he said he got it wrong with a few of the players when he signed them. He started to put them in certain positions where they just didn't perform. And he just said, you have to admit sometimes you got it wrong. And you have to be a big man to do that.
I think that's how we learn, though, isn't it? You know, we learn by making mistakes, and as long as you only make them once, then it's worth doing.
Exactly, and my guys, I always used to say to him, look, guys, you're telling me why it's gone wrong, and you're telling me this, telling me that. But my saying was, look, give me an explanation why it's gone wrong. Don't give me, you know, an excuse.
Don't just tell me, yeah.
I don't want excuses.
Yeah.
Look, it's gone wrong. Is it training? Is it this? Is it that? Is him no good? What has gone wrong? And then give us an explanation so it ain't going to go wrong again. And if it don't, that's good. We just moved that business was a thriving business. I miss it terrible, you know, because I went through a lot of changes in my life, and that business was for me to bury my head and crack on again. And that whilst I can't say it's like losing a member of the family, that as again, it's part of me.
Yeah.
It's part of me, and I'm eager to try and get back in the market that I was in. I tried working for someone in London, and to be honest, it's not for me. It don't work. I'm just a maverick. I'm an ideas guy, and I've made decisions and made poor decisions as a consequence, and that's where I am now. And it's a bit like, you know, Grant, if you weren't on that railway station that night, you know, there was 4 other guys with him. It happened to be him, and he was the only guy who didn't live at Watton. And he phoned me up during the day, and he said, oh, we're going out tonight to Smiling Sam's. I said, well, you drive? And he said, no, I'm not driving, I'm getting the train. Well, that was, to me, that was the most sensible thing to do.
Yeah. Sliding doors, isn't it? It's like I say, you could have dropped a key sort of back, and he's bent down.
It could have been anything.
Wouldn't be in that position, but
it could have been anything. He could have missed the train, and his mates got on the train, and he missed the train. You know, it's. I think it's. You know, if your number's up, is up. It's the difference between a fatal or near miss.
Yeah.
And that's as I see it. In, you know, a lot of people probably see things differently, but because of I'm only talking about my life experience. How it's affected me. I don't expect everybody to react the same as me, because, you know, unless something happens to you like that, you don't know how you're going to react, what your thought process is going to be.
Yeah, yeah.
And, you know, I think it's sad when, unfortunately, you know, lots of young men, and it tends to be more young men, take their own lives, and because they're troubled and they don't have any comparisons. You know, and it's difficult for people, you know. I
think that's the good thing about things like this podcast, where you can talk about your emotions, because blokes don't do that.
No.
Well, I think they're starting to do it more and more, but, you know, 20 years ago, Christ, you know, you tell me you're feeling down, it'd be like, sort Gary Hatch. I mean, what's his problem, sort of thing, you know, like man up. Whereas now I think it's more accepted to be able to say, do you know what, I had a really fucking shit day today. Like, and I've had enough. Like, you know, and you can sort of bare your soul a little bit more, and I think it does help. You know, the worst thing you do is just keep it all in.
Yeah, well,
you know,
because of as I say, we've got close friends, and I suppose my close friends sort of get me.
Yeah, they
know I might not be the big smiley face and the life and soul at the party, but the way I operate is, at least I'm there. I always go there, and our close friends that we've had pretty much have all supported us, even in difficult times, because what people have to realise, when you've lost someone, it's as difficult for the people to try and console people that whilst they say, I know how you feel, well, of course they don't know how you feel, but they try to interpret what you're feeling or what they could be feeling. But of course, as I said earlier, when I was doing the eulogy at the church, whilst I was choked up and upset, I got more strength, because it was almost like the more I said, I guarantee that all them people, and they all did say this to me, and they had children of similar age, they've grown up now, they all give their kids an extra hug.
Yeah.
Because that was, wow, this is tough for everybody. And I would hate anybody to ever go through that. You should never be burying people that are younger, like your children. You just shouldn't. It's just the wrong way round. But there's not a right way round. I'm just talking about my personal experience.
Yeah. Well, it's the one thing you don't expect to do.
No.
I remember a long time ago now, 24 years ago, 23 years ago. I remember one of my neighbours had come off a moped, and he was only doing 40, and there was no blood, no nothing, but impact.
Yeah.
He did, his head had, and again with a helmet on.
Yeah.
But he'd impacted, and that's it. He'd switched him off. He'd died, and I knew his mum. They were literally our neighbours, and watching her go through the loss of her son done me. It done me, and again, you can't comprehend that. And I hope I never have to comprehend that. I've got 4 daughters. It's your biggest fear, and I'm gutted to be sitting here talking to you about your loss.
Well, it's when I'm never going to be the same person, because part of me has been broken.
Yeah.
And that would be the same for all of the family would say that, in their own words. But, there's lots of things to look forward to as well with the grandchildren, and life goes on. So
100%. Yeah.
So that's, that new saying is what it is. So I don't burden people with my loss. I just, if anybody has recently experienced loss, and I went to a funeral last Friday, and the chap who died got an absolutely fantastic send-off. He was a proper guy, old school, younger than me, got a proper send-off. And I was speaking to a couple of people and just saying it would be great, wouldn't it, if they could just have a quick peep over and have a look and go, well, actually, I was all right. There was a few people, a lot of people like me, so I'm happy with that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they don't, and they can't. Well, we don't know. So, but yeah, I think my mum wanted Grant with him up there, and because he was flat out, he was a bit of a boisterous boy. But no, I think she wanted him up there, and as I said to you earlier, strong character. She put him in line, absolutely. He wouldn't get away with much with her. Well, I never did. But to be honest, it's respect from a very early age. My mum used to say, soap and water costs nothing, and basically manners cost nothing. So if you can talk to people and present yourself in a professional way, you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. Life isn't like that, is it?
You don't need to be like both of them.
No. No, I'm out there, I'm punching still with a boxing mentality, and if I get knocked down, I've got to pick myself up and dust myself down again. And I think that's kept us in good stead, really. And the boys, with their boxing, has sort of stabilised them, and they're cracking on. And my daughter, she's working tirelessly, Alice, and she wants to run her own business. So we're just people that want to run their own business, and we try to once a month pretty much have a family meal, so when we go out and take the grandkids with us and they're terrorising a restaurant, and that's what we do, and we try to get our phones off at that point and not keep doing things with the phone, because you don't get that time back.
Very true. Yeah.
So
it's nice to see. Listen, I see the boys. Obviously, I see a fair bit of Brett. I like Brett and Scott a lot. I like their ethos. I like what they're about. They're grafters.
Yeah.
Obviously, like yourself.
Well, we're triers. That's what we do. And if we don't succeed, we try something else. And I think that's that's always a good trait, you know. You
Oh, yeah.
not everything you touch is going to turn to gold, nor me. But you know, the more opportunities you create by putting a shift in and having a creative mind and think, well, what's an angle on this? What's an angle on that? That's what we're all about. Life becomes boring otherwise, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You imagine working for someone.
I couldn't.
No.
I couldn't.
No, you know. So, and nor could I. I did try it, but it weren't a great experience.
I've always found anyway, like my biggest losses have been my biggest lessons.
Yeah.
And I've often seen growth after a loss. You know, when you think it's almost like the butterfly, isn't it? You know, where it's when it thinks its life's over, it grows wings and
it goes,
and off it goes. Like, and it's like you can either fold at a loss, or you can analyse it and look at it and go forward, knowing what you've gained the experience, and you push forward and tweak and go again. You know, and I think Rocky Balboa analogy, isn't it? Analogy.
Yeah.
Analogy. Energy. What's that word? Analogy. That's the one. Yeah.
Analogy. Yeah. No, you're 100% right. And look, I can run a reasonably successful business and quite a large business because I've done it in the past. All right, a £4 million turnover business is probably not that big now, but it was a profitable business. We had a good bottom line, and we created a brand. Okay, not just in the local area, but it was a brand that, you know, I got selected to sit on these steering groups and things like that. And it was guys, you know, that had much better education than me and very much more articulate than me. But, you know, when you're on the shop floor, you just need to be as articulate as you can be when you consider that you're not dealing with academics. But it's all about the enthusiasm and the creativity that you have on your mind about, you know, of winning and taking on the challenge. And of course creating this atmosphere where people want to be successful and want to be part of the story and part of the team. And that's what we managed to do. And as I say, I was supported by really good people, and I take credit to myself by interviewing all the staff and hiring and firing, because I didn't want them in my team if they weren't up to it. And if I'd selected someone that weren't up to it, my team would very, very quickly pick them out and say, look, this guy, this girl, they're not for us. They're not going to be part of the long-term plan. So we're wasting our time investing in them, you know. Or if you get bad timekeeping, you know, that's a form of, you know, bad attitude, you know. And even if they hadn't got the skill set, you know, some of our best performers were our top guys and top girls, but the reality, some of the guys that would just come in and did all right jobs, and they were loyal and they were punctual and they got our business, but they weren't on the top table, were an important ingredient and part of the fabric of what the business was. Not everybody's going to be the superstar in there, you know.
I always find as well, there's two types of people. When Christmas comes, there's someone who comes up and gives you a bottle of wine and says thanks for everything this year.
Yeah.
And there's the guy who asks when the Christmas party is.
Yeah.
And there's that two different, totally two different. There's people who appreciate it, and there's people who think that, you know, like, you know, look what I've done for you.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, where's my pat on the back? It's like, I've always looked at it and seen it. You know, every year, even now, I look and I say, who just gives me? It's not about the money. Someone write me a card. You know, it could be a £3 bottle of wine.
Yeah.
But someone that she just thanks you just for, you know, and shows that appreciation for a year's work, a year's money. Like, it goes a long way, doesn't it?
It does, and I think that what I found with our people was that they were just they just got enthused with the journey because I shared a lot with them. Yeah. And I always found that if we were going to have a meeting, like a business meeting, or we were going to, you know, go through the end of month accounts, or, you know, and they were involved because I just wanted to go through the performance. The best time to have a meeting is in the morning. It's a breakfast meeting. They get there early. After 4 o'clock in the evening, they switch off. They want to get home. They want to do this. Their missus might be going out and all that. And we did that, and we got this camaraderie going, and it just worked for us. And I used to say to them, open book, we're not going to be judgmental. what's going on here, what's going on there, blah, 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 blah. And then I used to say to them, Mark, we've got a new contract with this is what it's worth in terms of turnover, revenue, and the bottom line figures. All things being equal should be that. They never had that openness before, this open book policy with anybody. They didn't understand it, and I had to explain to them. The reason why we know the numbers, because they've given us the numbers. They might not be accurate, and they might not be 100%, but they'll be there or thereabouts.
Yeah.
This is an insurance company feeding us so we can gear up to actually repair their cars. And there's a percentage of them cars that are not going to be repaired, they're going to be written off. So we factor that in. So I had a business plan, and they used to say to me, how'd you do it? And I said, because they're giving me information. I can't work with no information. They give me information, and I put our calculations across, and I had like a dashboard, the goods, the bads, and the indifference. And these are the areas where, where there's fine margins, where we can make a little bit more on there, but we lose a little bit on there. And providing we were at in the realms of an average repair cost. It's no good me saying every car that we're repairing is 1,500 quid when our competitors are at 900. Don't work. So that's what, and we had our biggest competitor was probably their worst performer, but did the most work. And I said, my performance is going to exceed them. We won't be doing the volumes you're doing, but your complaint ratio is going to be a lot less.
Yeah.
I used to go and see the people who handled the complaints. So I wasn't a figment of their imagination. They had my personal mobile. No other big body shops would have given personal mobiles. You'd have to deal with a manager or a supervisor or so-and-so. And by the time that field was over across to someone else, no good.
No.
Whereas then I said, if you've got a real problem, phone me, because I'll deal with it.
Face to face, yeah.
And my staff used to say to me, but Gary, we've got this customer complaining, he's this, he's that, or she's this. I said, forget it. Let's get it in. Let's do what we've got to do. Let's take pictures of it and everything else. I'll worry about it afterwards. The customer goes away, he don't complain. I'll take it up with the principals. And I can have a different conversation, can't I?
Problems dealt with.
Because it's all about the insurance company. It's all about continuity of policy retention.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, again, the amount of people I see in business who that £600 bit of work you're going to do for nothing, as in, that's won you the next £2 million worth of work.
Absolutely. And I used to say to him,
a lot of people are very, very short-sighted.
Yeah. Well, I just used to say, we're playing the long game here.
Yeah. And
that was the disappointment of my brother. He was always playing the long game, but unfortunately, he was too clever for his own good. He always knew an angle. And my mistake was really putting him in charge of the London site.
Hindsight, mate.
Yeah, but it is what it is, and it's done.
What's the future?
Just got to go in. I'm just want to go again, and I want to build another body shop. And obviously, we've got the site where we are, just outside of Hertford. Be nice to have an office in Hertford because Marshall Panelcraft's name was synonymous, and we're just off the beaten track slightly. So that would be good. Got a bit of mechanical with MOT coming in, and just really going to get busy and go back to some of the people I used to deal with. They're not all around. Some have passed on, but also some of them have, of course, not in the same job that they were in and things like that. They've retired and everything else that goes with it. But people still want cars repaired. They want them done properly. And a lot of the cars that they are going to get repaired, unless they've been involved with an accident themselves or they want some remedial work done, they probably won't go to the insurance route, because why would they? It's too expensive.
Yeah.
So I just got to go out there and bang the drum, and obviously the boys will and the family will get on social media and bang it for me, hopefully.
Well, it's admirable, mate, to see you, especially after what you've been through in business and personal.
Yeah, well, as I say, I'm just a fighter. I'm a survivor, and I'll just keep going. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I always think, I think it was the Colonel from KFC made it at 77.
Oh, yeah.
Something like that, wasn't it? Is it something stupid like that? Something like 77 he was. Who the inventor of KFC. Yeah, mad. Like, there's so many people want to give up at 30, 40. Like, you just got to keep banging the drum, ain't you? Keep knocking on the door, and it'll be good. Like say, you've got the experience. You've got your boys around you as well.
Yeah, that's all I know. Yeah. So I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm trying to get back to what I used to do. Things have moved on slightly, yeah. But fundamentally, customers need honesty. They want their cars repaired, and they want it done properly, professionally, and they don't want any problems.
Is it insurance route you're going to go again, or is it personal?
Well, a bit of personal, but I will talk to one or two of my insurance people. But I'm not going to hang myself out to dry where people are not going to pay me after 60, 90 days and make every excuse under the sun not to pay me.
Yeah.
I'd rather deal with the principals that have got the money that can pay me. It's a bit like if you were talking to someone, as I said earlier, You know, there's the guy that says, "Oh, I can help you. I fancy doing an investment in that." Okay, fine. Well, this is where we are. This is the time limit on it, and what's what. Oh, well, I've got to go and see if I can borrow the money first. Really? No, you shouldn't be at the table.
Yeah.
Have you got the money? Can you do it? Do you want to do it? Do you fancy it? And is that enough margin for you over that period of time? Yes or no? No, it isn't. All right, it's not for us. Thank you. We'll try someone else. So we're not falling out over it.
No.
But as I say, you're a businessman. You know exactly where I'm coming from. I'm not surrounding myself with them people now. I've got people I know that have just paid massive tax bills, big tax bills. Yet they could have used a vehicle to mitigate a lot of that tax, unless they get off by paying the tax man lots of money. And with my previous, I shouldn't really be talking like that, but my tax problem went away. It's gone away. I dealt with it, but it's hard. That's why I went and got a job. It's hard when you're under the pump from them, you know.
Yeah.
Not easy. But a lot of people said to me, why don't you just do a runner? Why don't you just do this, do this, do that? What, with GPS and phones and all that, it'll be waking me back.
No.
I'll be on news at 10.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not.
know?
You're not talking 30 million.
No, I'm not a gangster. I'm just a guy who's a businessman who's made a few quid and probably made a few mistakes as well. That's the summary of it. And I've got to get back to. I'm coming out swinging. I want to just get back to having some normality in my life. And after all the adverse, and just got I've just got it in a shelf of importance of where I need to be. And as long as I've got that shelf of importance. But at this moment, my true focus is in getting up and running and taking a bit of pressure off the family because, my family stand firm, which is commendable. Yeah. And I'd like to think, and it's not about me saying they deserve to be because I'm this, because I'm that. It's nothing to do with that. I'm more interested in, as I say, me and my miss have been married for 46 years. I've been happy. If you ask her, and she did a podcast, she might say something different, but I'm still there. And she just doesn't put my milk on my Frosties in the morning. But apart from that, and I'm lucky and fortunate that I've still got a good solid family after all the adverse.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
but we're close. We're very close, and I think people who know
it seems that way. Yeah, which is nice,
Yeah,
they say it's very families can be a funny thing, so it's nice when you can keep it that way.
Yeah, it's a bit old-fashioned, my philosophy, but it works for us, our particular family.
Yeah.
That's how we roll.
Yeah. Well, I think flares are old-fashioned. I think family values, I think they should be solid forever,
Yeah. Well, I've got rid of my flares now, to be perfectly honest.
I'm just checking.
Easy, Tiger.
Well, Gal, look, it's been a really nice couple of hours just to get into your head, mate.
Well, yeah, you've got into it, all right, yeah. And, no, I appreciate it. I've never done it before, so, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, no, we wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Have you got a company name or?
Yeah, it's gonna involve Marshall, and it'll probably be called Marshall Accident Repairs, or it might even morph into Marshall Accident Repair. But yeah, Marshall Panelcraft was our original name, but it's probably Marshall Accident Repairs. But anybody who knows me will know I'm behind it. And as I say, we've got the MOT station, which is going to be called Ware Automotive. So they're both limited companies, and they're both registered at Company House. So it's just a matter of hitting the button and going. We're getting there. We've had a few hiccups and delays, but I want it. Anybody who knows me, I want it done right first. And then when we open, we'll get out there and bang the drum.
Top man, mate. I wish you all the best.
No problem.
Gal, lovely to have you on.
Thanks for your time.
Top man, mate.
Cheers.